This is Book Tours, and I'm Corinne Edwards. I'd like you to meet one of the most important new messengers in publishing today. Important because the authors on this show are dedicated to helping your personal growth, make you happier, healthier, to be the best you can be. Wisdom Television is delighted to welcome David Samuel, author of Practical Mysticism. Can you be a spiritual person and also make a lot of money? David Samuel says you can, and he's going to tell us about how he did it. He's the author of Practical Mysticism, and he became a multi-millionaire in spite of it by the age of 25. David, we'd all like to be multi-millionaires. What made you want to make a lot of money?
Well, I always understood since I was very young that in this world, in the mortal realm, where we have the basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, money is necessary to effectively purchase our freedom, because we're always a slave to our body and its physical needs. And because of that, we must spend so many hours working to earn the money and to provide for those needs. But if we had enough money that we didn't have to work 8 or 10 hours, 5 days a week, we could devote that time to either benefiting other people or to our own personal growth. And so I always wanted, since I was very, very young, to make enough money so that I could retire before the age of 30 and then travel the world and continue what I began studying at home, which was all the different spiritual practices, but at this time to travel the world and go to their original sources.
You know, you say that you wanted to make a lot of money, and yet we were talking at lunch today, and you happened to be around for lunch. And you are describing the way you live. You said you have a couple of rugs, and you have one futon. So what is the money? What do you spend your money on?
Well, the money is not there to just buy more cars, more houses, more planes, and this. What good is that? How much can one person eat? What I found was that when I built up my first million and was doing very well in Montreal, which is where I'm from, I accumulated a beautiful home with beautiful furniture. And the happiest time I had was when I left it all and had nothing more than a backpack and was wandering around the world. I find that having a lot of possessions actually weighs us down. It gives us a tremendous headache and burden, and yet we think it is a comfort, but rather not. It is a burden we have to worry about. You have to get insurance for, so you have to work harder to pay for the insurance to cover the things that you have bought. And so I found that with just the basic possessions that one needs to provide a comfortable life that's very useful, your heart can be free. Now, the use of the money, as the Buddha said, and my grandfather always taught me, our purpose in life is to help as many people as we can, but above all, never hurt anyone. And so what I wanted the money for, and what I do with it, is to invest in projects. Now I've come out of retirement and I do certain businesses which are beneficial to the environment or to humanity at large. The money gave me the ability to publish this book, which is an expensive process. But another thing I did was business consulting for family-owned companies going bankrupt. They couldn't afford to pay for the help they needed to revive their company. So because I had enough money for myself, I could work for them for free. And that's when you benefit people, not just a business.
So the money is freedom.
Exactly. It's freedom and it's power, except let us use the power to the good of others rather than the manipulation or control.
So you feel that the reason you got the money is so that you could be free to do good works in the world?
Effectively, yes, good works, and also the freedom to benefit myself. It takes time to study different mysticisms and things like that.
You took a trip, you say, in your book.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go?
Well, I've been to about 30 countries in that trip. It was a couple of years of traveling. I started off in Japan and spent a few months there, and from Japan I went to Thailand and then to India and all around Asia, the Middle East, the Far East, and Western Europe as well. And just basically wandering. I never knew where I was going to go.
But what were you looking for?
Nothing. I don't look. I was waiting for something to come to me. Basically, there's nothing out there that will change what is inside. But in order to find what is inside your being, you have to see all that there is, all the possibilities, and realize the futility in it all, or the equality in it all. Actually, in the Sufi path, it is a commandment that one must travel, because only by experiencing something firsthand can you understand it. And so rather than going to actually find something, although I did find many teachers, I ended up as a Zen monk in Japan, I was with the Sufis in Turkey, and many different teachers through the years.
Where did you start out? Did you have a religion to start out from?
I'm born Jewish.
And have you left that religion as a result of this?
I do not follow any religion dogmatically and to say I am of this religion. I've studied through the years Buddhism and Zen and Sufi and Kabbalah and mystical Christianity and many different teachings, and really they're all the same. You can find every one of them in another one, whether it's a Taoist or Confucius. Many of Christ's teachings were said by Confucius 600 years before. And so I do not consider myself anything of a particular caste or culture, but rather that I'm just me.
What is the common denominator for all these different religions you studied?
The development of an awareness of yourself so that you are awake and aware of what is going on around you for the purpose of never hurting another person and as well being of most benefit to those around you. And in giving to another person, it's something I've noticed here in this country. People say, I give, and I have no more left. Then that's not really giving. Because if you are truly giving, you expect nothing in return. And so you cannot be disappointed or drained of energy. If you give and you have a mate, a spouse, a girlfriend, boyfriend who doesn't give back, and you say, I'm tired of giving, I can't give anymore, well, then you were giving with an expectation of receiving. And that is not pure giving. That is not pure love. Pure
like giving a kid $5 for his birthday and following him around to see how he spends it.
Exactly. And expecting him to buy you a thank you card. You see?
Oh, definitely he has to write a thank you note.
Absolutely. But if you give, let it be given with complete freedom so that the person can benefit without the tie, the guilt, the emotional tie that says, you can do what you want, it's yours, but remember who gave it to you. You see, that's not real giving. But when you give purely for the sake of giving, and it's in business, when you do for the sake of doing the best job you can at whatever job you're doing, you're going to get your paycheck. But that's not your goal. Your goal is to be the best you can, to do the best you can. Your work will be so good. The credit you will receive is tremendous. The respect is amazing. But the best of all, you will have an amazing amount of energy. You will never be drained, because if you give with the expectation of receiving and you don't receive, then you're not getting what you need to refill that energy that you've given out. But if you give with no expectation of receiving and you get purely the joy of giving, you are always replenishing your energy supply. And with that, you're full of energy. When I teach, sometimes I go till 3, 4 in the morning, and then I'm up at 6 or 7, and I'm filled with energy.
Where does God come into this? Do you believe in God?
I do believe there is an energy, an essence at the source of anything, but of everything rather, and anything, but that in our limited human capacity, we cannot conceive of that infinite that is God, because God is infinite, and we are finite in our human intellect. And so we cannot really understand what this God is. It's beyond our capacity. And so I take the attitude that there is an original creator, the cause of all causes, let us say, and that I respect that there is a reason or a source for all being. But my attitude is more like, if I can do every day what is in front of me, and to be the best I can that day, and perhaps I die tonight in my sleep, and if I wake up, I'm going to be the best I can that day. Take each day at a time to be the best I can. Perhaps I will be fortunate enough to refine my inner being to the state where I can experience God. Because you cannot explain in words what is inexplicable or infinite. Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching that any name, or the Tao rather, which is what he refers to as the God, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao, because you cannot define it. And so I accept purely to do what is in front of me each day, and by that hope to have the experience of reality, which can never be conveyed in words.
So it has nothing to do about thinking about God. It's about feeling God?
Experiencing. And you do that by being the best you can each day.
So do you become, in a way, God when you do this?
Well, you're acting in our human self. We act as an agent of our immortal self, our soul, whatever continues. And in acting that way, we are allowing the wisdom of God to come through our personality.
Hold that thought. We like to talk about wisdom on Wisdom Television. We've been talking to David Samuel, who is the author of a fascinating book called Practical Mysticism. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're talking to David Samuel about his book, Practical Mysticism, and his journey toward being a millionaire and beyond. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You were talking about doing the best you can in every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not then to please God, is it?
Well, in a way, perhaps it is. Because what are you created to do? You don't really know. You will never know your ultimate destiny. Now, you know what's an interesting thing is, what do you think is the most important profession? Doctor, lawyer, teacher, judge,
mother?
President, mother? You know what's a really important profession? Garbage collector. Now, let's think about it. If not for the garbage collectors, what would our cities be like? So you see, you never know how important the mundane tasks might be, or what our destiny is. Now, thank God some people are born to be garbage collectors, because the rest of us need that, and even the garbage collectors too. They also need that profession. And so I look at what is in front of me today, each moment, and I do the best I can with what is in front without judging. Is this worthy? Is this important? Because the great doctor would have one terrible mess in his office if there was no such thing as garbage collection. So we can even equate the value of the two because they are interdependent, as all things are. So when you say, oh, I hate doing laundry, I don't like washing the dishes, well, what if you didn't? You wouldn't have anything to eat on. So when we come to the point where we value and see the value of every single task we are doing as equally important because it forms a part of the finished whole, then you will see that no matter what you do will fill you with the joy and the feeling that you are actually acting according to God's will.
Now, you said you wanted to make a lot of money because you wanted freedom.
Yes.
Can you have freedom as a garbage collector?
Absolutely. Everybody's destiny is different. My destiny was to study 10 or 15 different spiritual paths and take the essence of each one and bring it to American English for the year 2000 so that we can apply the basics of the teachings, what those teachings wanted to give us in a way that fits in our hectic lifestyle without having to take 2 hours or an hour out of your day. Exercises which give you the same benefit as the Buddha had taught us 2,500 years ago or the Sufis from 1,500 years ago, but in today's world where it's practically applicable, where you can fit a practice into driving to work or in your mundane chores. And so my destiny was perhaps to study, to get the wealth, so I had the freedom to disseminate all of these teachings in a way people could follow.
What is your job in this world?
Well, I just take every day. If I can make somebody smile each day, then my job is complete.
Do you consider yourself a teacher?
Well, if somebody learns from me, then I'm a teacher. I am whatever benefits somebody else could take from me. And I think we should all have that attitude. It would make our lives so much easier.
You said that this was your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know what our destiny is?
You only know that after you've completed it. Normally, it's very hard to really know your true destiny unless you've cultivated strong-minded. Maybe you've had a vision from God or something like that. But in trying to understand these immense concepts, it's beyond our normal intellectual capacity. And so my thought is, if I will do whatever is in front of me, that is my destiny. For today, my destiny is to come here and talk to you. And so I look at destiny rather than saying there's one huge big thing I must accomplish in life, but every moment. The Sufis say, the Sufi is a child of the moment, nothing more. And so I look at my destiny each moment And then I might look back 5, 10, 20 years in the past and say, oh, I see now what my destiny was.
So you didn't really set out to be a multi-millionaire when you started?
No, I just set out.
It just happened?
Well, I knew that I needed a certain amount of wealth to do what I needed to do. I had originally thought $10 million by 30, and it turned out that $2 million was adequate to do what I needed. And the time came where I said, oh, well,
I would say that
enough.
was adequate.
Right.
I could deal with that.
It is. And then, that's enough, and now it's time to take the next step. So I have a goal, I had a goal, and I achieved that goal. And that's something we need to remember, is that we might have a vision, but maybe you've got it, let's say, tainted or tinted according to what you've been programmed to believe is success. True success is doing what you are meant to do. And what you're meant to do is simply what's in front of you right now. That makes you really efficient too, because if you're always doing what's in front of you, 100% of your focus and energy is on the task, rather than doing something and thinking, oh yeah, and I have to do this, and then tomorrow, and then next week, and then the day after. You're not here. And if you're not here, and you're over there, how can you do what is here?
You kind of refine that down to everyday things when you say, treat everyone the same, and every task the same.
That's right. It's like your body. Can you tell me what's the most important organ? Because even your little pinky is very important to your body. All the parts form the one whole. When we start to see things not only as the whole, but the parts that make the whole, and going beyond the organs, all the cells in the organs, all the atoms, the electrons, the neutrons, every single one of them is important to the completion of the whole. And so every person, every task at hand is important to the completion of the whole, whether it be your job or your community or your family or your world.
One of the biggest problems in the United States and maybe the world today is depression. There are so many people who are on antidepressive medicine now. What do you think causes this?
Well, I think the problem is trying to do something because you're told and you now believe that is what you should be doing rather than what you really are meant to do. One of my students was an executive, and she got fed up with her executive hectic lifestyle. And then she was trying to find something that she should do. What she discovered was drumming. She loved drumming. She wanted to teach drumming to children, drum at parties. And so she started doing this. And she was doing quite well. And then she developed an illness, a clogged gland. And what happened is the gland wasn't clearing up. And so we talked about it. And I said, well, how's your drumming? She says, well, it's doing okay, but not so great. And I feel like I should still get an executive job again, because my parents really are not happy with my drumming career. So I said,
That's what you want your kid to be, a drummer, right?
Oh, yes.
Unless it's in the Duke Ellington band or something.
Well, not in her family. Mm-hmm. And so I explained to her, well, you see, you found your destiny, but now you're not following it. And look what's happening. 2 days later, she called me up, or rather an email, and she said, you know what, I thought about what you said, and I gave up looking for part-time executive work or any kind of office job, and I'm fully devoted to my drumming. And you know what? My gland cleared up after 2 months, and nothing the doctors could do. And so don't value something more or less. Find what you enjoy. Find what pleases you. Now, you can still keep your job. Make your pleasure a hobby. But at least allow your creativity to express itself, because creativity comes with a warning. Use me or else. And so the problem, I believe, with the depression, people are not allowing their minds to be fed what it really needs for their personal nature. The school systems have, young children are on these depressants. It's a terrible thing. It's just a way of masking the problem. The problem is they're too smart, and they're not being fed the intellectual food for their minds that they require to survive. Now, if you went on a diet, or you went on a fast, you stopped eating, you stopped drinking, what would happen to your body? Very weak, very drained. You would be listless completely until you drop dead. And so mentally and emotionally, we have the same need for food. We need something to stimulate our mind at its level, to stimulate our artistic creativities. And if that is not fed, we're basically starving our mind. And then we become drained. And since people don't know how to deal with it, they just say, here, take a drug, go to sleep, pass your life this way.
You talk about another aspect of depression, and that is inharmonious environmental frequencies.
We are very susceptible to the environment. I noticed this one time I was traveling from Spain to Rome, a long journey by train. I left, was feeling great. The train went through an area, a very slummy, dirty area, started to feel depressed. And then a little later on, we were on the French Riviera, beach, people playing in the sun. I felt great. This is the experience of identification. We identify with our environment, which means either the location, the place, or the people. You know, the music that is playing in the background, or the ones you listen to, notice how that affects you. Take an exercise. For 1 week, only one type of music. Another week, another type of music, very different. Then notice, how are you sleeping? How is your digestion? How is your energy? How is your mood in each of those weeks? You'll start to see how your environment affects you. Another thing is, if you come into the office one morning on a bright sunny day, and then by noon everyone is telling you, oh, there's a big snowstorm coming, and it's going to be terrible traffic going home, you start to get all fearful. You don't think that I've got an excellent all-wheel drive vehicle. I have nowhere to rush home to. I can take my time. I'll be fine. No, you don't think that. You start to get the fear of what the other people are talking about, which they got from listening to the radio, which is already telling you that it's going to be a terrible mess going home today. And so you become aware of how your environment affects your moods, and you start to resist them by saying, ooh, I'm being affected. Why? This is ridiculous. Allow me to choose my mood. And they say being enlightened is not that you don't get angry or happy or excited or sad. It's that you choose what you are going to be.
Somebody told me they felt that they were making tremendous spiritual leaps when they still got mad and they still got depressed, but it didn't last as long.
Exactly.
You think that's part of the
Absolutely.
The barometer?
Very much so. I mean, I rarely get mad these days, but sometimes, you know, driving, and I get angry, and I'll brrr, and then, okay, it's over. As soon as the event that is facing me is no longer in my face, I'm not angry anymore because I'm dealing with what's in front of me.
Well, you are a wonderful inspiration to all of us, not only because you've made a lot of money, but because you're a fantastic person and a great teacher, whether you know it or not. We've been talking to David Samuel, who is the author of Practical Mysticism. So I always tell you around here, we bring you the most important new messengers in publishing on this show. These are authors who care about you. Keep coming back.